In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, give us the light to know your will and the strength to get it done. Amen. Amen. And may Almighty God bless us all, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. That's probably my favorite prayer. It's not really mine. I kind of stole it from the first week of Ordinary Time. You can be seated. First week of Ordinary Time, that's the prayer. I just, it's a fancier words than that.
I stole it from you.
Illumine our minds. It's very fancy looking. Illumine our minds. Give us ardor to our wills. I'm like, oh, light and strength. That's good. I'm good. But really, I hope to propose kind of a simple, I mean, there's so much to open here. Like we could spend months. Maybe we will one day. But, you know, unpacking. But really to look at masculinity as a gift. Masculinity and manhood as a gift in the church and in creation. And the reason I thought it's something I've actually been reading and praying and thinking about a lot for years, but really in the last year, it's funny. So when I got your email with the topic, I was like, whoa, wow, I've actually have to get rid of a lot of topics that I've had in my head and just kind of cut it down to a kind of an overview. And the reason I think it's important is because I don't think it's seen as a gift right now. And I'm not trying to be like beg the argument or pick a fight or an internet troll. I've been that. I've been all things. But this one, I'm trying to be honest. I really think, as we look at it, I think some of the things we're going to hear, the terms we're going to hear are going to seem instinctively negative terms. And arguably, I would propose they're not. They can be used in a negative way, but I don't think they're negative terms. So the first thing to throw out right now and get rid of this idea is, and this is a really common idea, men versus women. That is a stupid, un-Christian, un-Catholic, un-godlike way of looking at the male and the female. It's evil. And I'm good at using the word in the true sense, theological sense of the term. It's wherever there is division, there is sin. That's an ancient teaching of the church. Where there is unity, there is grace. Where there is unity, there is love. Where there is division, there is sin. Look, the devil can't create. Creation is reserved to two things: God himself and man and woman. And he hates us for that. And so what he does is he can't create, but he can certainly twist or bend or break or destroy. And so the first thing he always tries to destroy is unity. Adam was in perfect unity with God. He got in there and split them. Adam and Eve no longer worked together. Adam and Eve were in perfect unity. He got in there and split them. What is Adam's first thing when he gets caught? The woman did it. He split them. And if you notice, when we say man was created to create, instinctively even I had to say, and woman. That's nonsense. It's implied. And if it bothers someone, if they're like, well, I don't think so, that means that they see division between the two. And you see, it's instinctive even in me. And I actively fight that in my mind. You know, but it's an instinctive, well, I mean, man creates. Oh, you mean like, oh, only man? No, man and woman. But I shouldn't have to say that. And we never did, by the way. The idea of a man versus woman, although it's as old as Adam and Eve, the split, it's only become common coin of the realm after Karl Marx, actually. You know, when the communist ideology and the revolt of the masses and the revolt of, he was the one who proposed that women have to overthrow men and men have to overthrow women because that's where you have to be free. And up until that point, it wasn't looked at. It just didn't exist. It's like a brand new idea, an unpleasant one. So the first thing is when we speak about manhood, masculinity as a gift, the strengths of masculinity, you have to immediately realize that part of you, if you grew up in any sort of culture that's influenced by the West, part of you is already like, well, what about women? Stop. That's nonsense. That's another form of the sin of envy. What you give to one, you don't have to give to the other. That's what envy is. To look at another person's gift and say, I want that, or I should have it too. Stop. It's not healthy. And and to give to one doesn't take away from the other. And I'm not kidding. I was on the internet yesterday night. When I'm bored, I go trolling and I go pick fights with people on the internet. I'm a terrible person. I'm not a good priest. I was on a website and you could see them. They're like, but isn't that discrimination? I said, why? Why? I didn't take away from someone else at all. Well, why should everyone have the same? Should I have the same treatment as my sister, who has done great and wonderful things in her family, and I have not? No, her family should treat her differently. She's earned that. There's nothing wrong with it. So, you know, look, be careful for that unity and division. That's always a thing in your own spiritual way of looking at things, in your own very earthly way of looking at things, maybe. Always be aware of that. If you feel that in your head, stop and take note of it at least. That where there is division, there is sin. And then, so then we can come back and speak about men and women and realize that we complement each other, but we're not. We're complement each other, but we're not the same. We're equal, but we're not the same, and there's a difference, you know. And so, what's the masculine? What's the masculine genius? You know, feminine genius is a beautiful thing. We'll speak about that in a moment. You know, but what's the masculine? I'd propose to you that it is self-sacrifice. The essence, the fundamental nugget, the most manly thing is the self-sacrifice. If you find yourself saying, well, women can self-sacrifice too, realize you're back at square one. Do you see? Well, of course they can. But there's a difference between us. And so the masculine, the self-sacrifice, or the, if you want, the sacrifice for the good of the community is you know, something that I would say is particularly masculine. In fact, I'd propose to you, God in his second person became a man, not because men are better than women, but because it is in the nature of man to sacrifice, self-sacrifice, and Christ was going to die on the cross. I'd throw that idea right out. It's not mine. I'm stealing it from tons of better theologians than me. But that's why Jesus was a man. It's because it's inherent to manhood to self-sacrifice. We'll get into the how and the what, but you know, I came across a beautiful talk or something, a reflection on man and woman, and the speaker pointed out something. Men far outstrip women, in the saints, I mean, in terms of martyrs. There are far more male martyrs than there are female martyrs. Far more, like vastly more. There are far more female mystics. We got like John of the Cross. And what's the French guy? Abandonment to Divine Providence? It's a good guy. I forget his name. We got like 3. Like, Pierre de Caussade, you know? Yeah. We got like 3 guys. Women, they have a list. Start a list, you know? And I would say that speaks to us, that we're very external, we're very about, but men are the great sculptures of the church are almost all male. The great architecture of the church is created by men. The great poetry, women kind of beat us on that one. But anyway, I would say, look, man in his truest and best form is the protector or the defender. He's the guard. He's the sentinel. He's the bounds keeper. That's the one I kind of like to use. He's the guardian at the gate. And so he has the power of the male. And our bodies speak this very clearly. Our bodies tell this right immediately. The difference between men and women, our bodies speak it. A man's body is not beautiful. It's not. It is powerful. Well, we call a man attractive. We don't call him because he's an attractive man. It's not because he's beautiful. It's because he's powerful. That's why, like, you have old guys who are voted sexiest men. I look every year. Every year I make sure to look it up, see, and like forget what magazine does it. I always make sure. And there's like all these old guys, and people are like, why is he sexy? Because physically he's not. But he brings, who are these guys? These are A-list actors, A-list, you know, heads of state. And so they have power. You see? That's what makes a male attractive. And so he's strong. A man is meant to be strong. A man is meant to be stubborn. Well, that's a bad thing. Not if he's holding on to the truth. Stubbornness is it should be a neutral term. A man is meant to be immovable or unyielding. That's a very specific kind of, and I'm using these in positive sense. A man formed well in his masculinity in God, in Christ. Now, what happens if you are a man and you're not formed well? Not formed in Christ? Well, we know what that is too. Instead of the protector, he becomes the abuser. Instead of the defender or the sentinel, he becomes the beast. He dominates, he subjugates, he conquers. And I'm not being poetic on that one. I mean, literally, he just destroys. Rape, abuse, theft, and not just theft in hiddenness, theft right to their face and assault. A man can do this because he has this power. See, Here's the thing I've learned about God. God gives you gifts and he never takes them away. So not if, because everybody does. When you struggle with some gifts you have, and we all do, no such thing as you don't. Because every gift is also a cross. You're like, I wish I wasn't like this. I wish I was like my friend who was like that. Fine, you can wish all you want, that's fine. When you're done wishing and you actually want to do something about it, realize you can't make that gift go away. And we've all tried, I bet. We've all tried aspects of our personality, like, I don't want that anymore. You try all you want, it's not going anywhere. God doesn't take his gifts back. What you have to learn is how to put it at the service of the cross. So the guy who is super, super, super gregarious and super sympathetic and super charismatic, he can lead people right to heaven, or he can lead them right to hell. I mean, but he has to put that at the service of the cross, the natural born leader. The guy who gets things done, has to put that at the service of the cross. The guy who, whatever your gifts are, you have to put them at the service of the cross. When you don't, well, there's only one of two choices. Pope Francis, his first day as Pope, said that to the bishops. First day as Pope. I remember thinking, oh, he took to that like a fish to water. His first day as Pope. And he preached, you're either a bishop of the church and of Christ or a bishop of Satan. And I was like, oh, I like this guy. This guy's like, wow, all right. Day one, sure, start off strong. All your gifts have to be used. I think it's Francis de Sales that says your thoughts. He was speaking about your thoughts, but I would propose your gifts. Your thoughts are either entertained by holy things or they are entertained by evil things. They cannot be not entertained. I remember reading that going, I would propose, yes, one about your thoughts, but also I would say all your gifts. Your natural abilities will either be used for good things or bad. So instead of being strong or some, they ravish families. They assault the people who are weaker than them. They take by force. Aggression should not be a negative thing by itself. Because aggression can be necessary and good, or aggression can be evil. How else do you stop someone who is bad if you have tried reason and logic and kindness? You must use aggression. I don't recommend it lightly, please. But we have to be clear about it. How else, I'll do you one better, forget about other people. How else do you deal with yourself? If you have matured on any level, you know that you like yourself, you love yourself. Well, let me start over. You love yourself. There are times you don't like yourself. And there are times if you're really mature, you can't trust yourself. And if you don't know what I mean, that's not good. You're not being honest with yourself. Because we have to be honest with ourselves. Say there's times I can't trust myself. We have to deal with ourselves aggressively. And by the way, I feel like feathering, touching, just gently throttling on one of the things we'll talk about later about apologizing for your manhood. Because many of us hear the word aggression and we think something horrible. We're already kind of triggering yeah, that's bad though. Why? Who else will defend the family? Well, people shouldn't attack them. I know that. But you can deal with the world as it is or you can deal with the world as it should be. See which will get you further. So we have power, gentlemen. Physical, clear power. I don't think it's deniable. We have strength. But we must always use it in self-sacrifice. We must always use it for the community. Without it, we become the animal. I mean, Hollywood loves to play with that, right? You have like 125-pound heroine knocking over giant guys. Look, sorry, stop it. Physics doesn't agree with you. Well, if you know certain fighting techniques, okay, get really specific about it. Usually whenever you have to say technically, I used to tell my servers, if you ever have to say technically, you're probably lying. What do you mean? Well, technically you're lying. Stop. And when you get to Jesus, try that one out with him. He's going to look at you. Really? You're going to try that with me? Don't do that. Because we want to kind of balance and make them the same. We're not the same. We are equal. We are complementary. We're created to have power, to have strength, to have force. Now, this is not the purpose of our talk, but I will very quickly go through the feminine genius, the feminine gift. And I wouldn't even propose I'm going to go through the whole feminine genius, just like I'm not going through the whole masculine genius. Because I don't think it can be covered in a short talk. It's not possible. But to just touch on it, really the gift of the feminine is to encourage or to nurture or to comfort. That's why they're better mystics than us, guys, because they can see the heart of God, just like they can see our hearts much more easily. Watch little kids. A little girl will come over and be like, are you sad? A little boy will be like, oh, he's distracted. A little girl will notice. And so the female in her zenith or in her thing is the queen of the home. The male is the guard on the walls, like I said before, the sentinel, the boundskeeper. The woman is meant to be the queen of the home. The mother says, you know, whatever the kid does is good enough, and that's great. If they don't like you, they're not really your friends. The father, lovingly and gently but clearly, should say, no, you need more. Kid, you did great, but it's not quite good enough. You know, I always give this example, and you'll forgive me if you've heard it before, but my favorite example is, or a common one is, when you learn how to play baseball. And I propose, and if you don't want baseball, you can pick any sport. You learn how to play every sport twice. Because the first time you learn it is to play the rules, and yay! And then you want to play it with your older cousins or the kids from down the street who don't play it, yay! And so you learn it again. You know what I mean? Anyone who's there has been through this. You're like, oh, I know what you mean now, Father. Because we all learned it at one point, and then you really learned how to play. Yeah. And what was the difference? Your mom says, great job, honey. You did the best you can. Your dad says, not bad, kid. You got to do a little bit better. You didn't actually hit the ball. But I swung with all my might. Yeah, you got to connect. You got to make contact with the ball. You see, a father's love is meant to be gently, lovingly, but have the boundaries that you need to meet. Raise the bar for you so that you get better, okay? And without it, I propose to you that, you know, it hurts us. It hurts us and it costs us. And what it costs us is very dangerous. It costs us who we are, and it therefore costs us everyone we defend, everyone we protect. Who did you learn? The last thing to say, the difference between the male and the female is what? I mean, or to touch briefly on the female is who did you learn your skills from? Mom says what you did is good enough. Mom teaches you what? How to relate to others in the home. She teaches you how to behave with others, how to be nice, how to not be nice. Fine. It's interrelational. That's part of the feminine genius. They're just better at it than we are, guys. What does the father teach you? What your older brother teach you? Skills. How to survive outside of the home. How to drive. Very often we learned it either from our dads or from an older male, most of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time. And certainly most commonly. How to play sports. Why? Not because you play them in the house, but because when you go outside and the little other boys come up to you and say, can we play baseball? And you go, what's baseball? You're going to get stared at. You don't know what baseball is? Baseball, I'm saying here in New York, all right? Pick another sport for another country or another region of America and you'll get it. What's soccer? And they'll stare at you and go, what do you mean that's soccer? Why? Because you have to learn that, and it has to be taught so that you can relate to others outside of the home. Your taxes, your bills, how to balance your finances, usually that's something that a male teaches or guides or should. Now, does it always happen? And I'm not speaking in absolutes because I can't, because every human being, every person is unique. These are all things that we need to learn to survive in the world. And usually they're taught by a man. And so our power, our strength, returning back to that point, I wanted to just briefly, very briefly touch on the feminine. Our powers, our strength is not inherently bad. It's just how we use it. In fact, I would propose to you, it's inherently good. We're meant to have it. You just have to use it well. The word virile, right, manly or strong, comes from the same word as virtue. The Latin root vir, man, or strength. And so, you know, to be virile is to be manly, is to be also virtuous. We should be. We must demand that of ourselves. And I use the word demand purposefully. You know, I go on trips, and when I go on trips, if I go on trips with girls, I love it. It's great. And I kick myself privately because I can't use everything at my disposal because they're girls. I want to go to the bathroom. Okay, let's see what we can do. We can find it. And then I go on trips with boys. I want to go to the bathroom. No, stop it. Suck it up. Let's go. Well, I would never speak to a girl that way. But a boy has to learn. And they're like, what? But why? What's the difference? A boy has to be held to a standard. That's how he will respond. Gentlemen, we have a problem of prolonged adolescence in our culture. So much so that's an actual term. Extended adolescence is a term. And it refers by far to men because we don't have enough people challenging us. We'll get to who's supposed to challenge us or who we can add to that at the end. But So man is supposed to be manly. Man is supposed to be challenging to himself. Fine. But how does he not become a brute? Well, because he should always be a gentleman. He should always add that gentleness to his manliness. Never not be manly, but never not be gentle. They must go together. Without one or the other, we become too feminized or we become too brutish. We're not either one. We're meant to be something different. It's to have your sword always ready, but rarely draw it. Your sword is sharp, your sword is ready, it's just rarely drawn. It's to protect others and, if necessary, protect them from ourselves. People who struggle with chastity, couples, I tell them, you protect your girlfriend, protect your fiance. Okay, protect her from yourself. Well, that's the job of the man, to protect. Okay, but protect her from yourself. You could be the source of danger for her. You are not her soulmate if you don't care about her soul. You protect her from physical danger and the diabolic is attacking her and attacking you constantly. That's stupid. It's a waste of time. You're better off getting danger, physical danger. The man dies if necessary to protect those he needs to. What does Christ do? He comes down, he teaches us, he guides us, he gives us the skills we need, and then to make sure we are protected, he lays down his life. That's why I propose the second person of the Holy Trinity went that way. God is not, look, let's be clear here. God in se is not man or woman. God is both, God is all. Okay, yeah, fine. But how does God always choose to present himself? His choice, not mine. As a man. Why? I'd propose to you that maybe because we need more of goal setting and boundaries than we do nurturing. I think sinful Adam needs more of a stop, or you better work a little harder, than he does, oh, you're fine, you did enough. You know what we have when we do that? We have the mess we have sometimes in the world. I think we need more of a goal setting. Now, does that mean that man does not nurture or he cannot be kind? Of course not. Man can be nurturing, is nurturing, can be kind, should be kind. But we're just never going to be as good at some things instinctively as others, and that's okay. Again, if it bothers you, realize that you have a dichotomy in your head about what goes where. It was put there as if it was a bad thing. We're not supposed to be the same. You have little boys who are 3 years old and they walk around and they do this, or they're 1. Hi. And everybody goes, okay, whatever. You have a little girl who does the exact same thing. She grabs her skirt, she goes, hello, and you go, put your skirt down. We all know you should. We're like, yeah, teach her modesty, teach him modesty. There's a different sense of modesty. We shouldn't be the same. It's okay not to be. If women were so the same as men, then why do we need them? Come on. A man needs a woman not that can do what he can do. She needs a woman that can do what he can't. That can teach him, soften him. Guys, when there are just guys, sarcasm and foul language abounds. Okay? To steal a page from St. Paul, abounds all the more. Where there is only men, sarcasm and foul language abounds all the more. Add one woman to the group, and you see how they tend to act a little bit more classily. They should. They should. That's as good. We need women. Okay? But the opposite is also true. Women in only groups of women become lost sea of emotion. Add one man, and there's a little bit, hopefully, of a change. We need each other. So we have to be different. Otherwise, what's the point? You don't go to IKEA and get 2 boxes of the same thing to build your couch. You get 1 box of this and 1 box of that. Otherwise, you don't have the full set. You just have 2 sets of the same. You want to build successful humanity, you need both. So, what are some practical steps? Give me 1 second. I'm going to write something down. Mm-hmm. What are some practical steps? And you'll notice I'm a little bit under the hour you asked, and I chose to be because I thought, I don't want to go crazy. We could go through each one of these over time because I think there's so much, not just the steps, but even looking back at the masculine, looking at other saints, looking at things. But some practical steps. I'd propose there's 4 or so. 1, remember that fundamental lesson from Christ, self-sacrifice. I've learned that just to keep a thought in your head actually can make a change in your life. People that I can't, no, just to keep something conscious. That's what Lent is supposed to do. Chocolate is not evil, okay, or meat or whatever. Why do you give it up? Well, not because it's evil, but because it forces me to keep the presence of God at the front of my mind. I really want meat. Jesus. Small little way, but it works. Okay? And so to keep a simple thought in your head that your spiritual life is as equally, no, more important than your physical life will help you. That's what Lent does. Well, same thing. Keep the thought of self-sacrifice in your mind, in your prayer life. You know, I always tell people, make that part of your relationship with God. Do you know you're part of your relationship with God? No. Okay, well then that tells you how that relationship is going. I think that's pretty bad if you don't even know you're in a relationship with God. Keep that there. How? Well, the same way we do for Lent. Small penances. You'd be surprised how powerful small penance can help. You know, I forget what's the name of the saint, but where there is not fasting, one of the Eastern Rite saints, where there is not fasting and prayer, there are demons. Where there is not fasting and penance, there are demons. You know, it's one of these things you have to realize. We have to constantly have a certain level of fasting. Now, does that mean food? Well, no, although maybe I could stand to lose some more weight. Yes, I could, actually. But be careful. Our danger, gentlemen, right? If we go bad, our power is that we become dominating of others. We become animals. So really what you want to learn how to train is your will. Discipline your will. That makes your fasting or your penance much easier because it could be anything. Just learning how to dominate your own will. My intellect says I'm going to do this and my will is forced to obey it. That way my will never runs out and gets too strong, runs out of control, because my body will let me do more damage than someone else. So small penances, train your will. By the way, the things I'm going to describe sound an awful lot like military, because the military is in a certain sense, or sports are a certain sense kind of tapping into that raw masculine energy, okay? You have to have a constant training of your will. Soldiers are not marched. I remember speaking to a Navy SEAL trainer, and he said they would make them go into a lake somewhere frozen, cut a hole and like jump in the lake or something like that. He said, we didn't do that because they just, cold was important. I mean, yeah, we want to train their body for cold. That's not why I did it. So they learned how to dominate their bodies with their will. That they could take an order that would be physically horrifying, the cold, and do it unquestioningly. Not because we wanted them to be self-driven. So I said, so where do you go from that? He goes, because by training them to learn how this is more important than everything else, then when they are in the field and they have to make decisions on their own, they will. So you see, it's not that the thing you give up itself is bad or good. It's that you've learned to train your will to say, I do this and I will do it. I follow through. By the way, a subset to this one, to point number 1, is chastity. You want a pro tip for chastity? I love it when I changed, and brother, I'll address you. Brother, I changed about 3 months ago. Up until 3 months ago, my entire life, people go, you don't know what it's like to be chaste, Father. It's really hard. And I always just say, okay. About 3 months ago, I think I reached the end of the rope and I was just jumped off. I was like, no, you don't know what it's like not to have sex. Well, I was like, you're like a kid that plays Call of Duty. I'm a Marine. Are you really going to tell me you don't know what it's like to know? No, but it's different. No. I just reached, I don't know, I felt it cracking and I heard like a noise in my soul going crack. And I was in the middle of Corazón Puro and somebody asked me a question and I just, like, I snapped. I was like, no, you don't know what it's like to be chaste. You have to be chaste till marriage. Oh, how long is that? Are you serious? Like forever, man, bruh. Like, so, you know, I've realized, no, take it from a pro. I can say this. Prayer is the single best ally you have in chastity. More than physical training, more than everything. The way I tell people is look at it or think of it as like rinsing your mind off. Quick hose off. I'm not saying get in there and scrape it down. That's confession. But I'm just saying a quick hose rinse off. So when your thoughts go where they shouldn't, and they will, quickly douse them in a little bit of, just rinse them, like throw it on the sink. What I call guy clean. You know what I mean, right? Guy clean, and then there's like real cleaning. Guy clean, just throw some water. But that stops some buildup. It's enough. And then you get to sacramental grace, sacramental prayers, right? Confession. That'll give you more strength. But you can't wait only till confession, because then you'll only be going after you did something wrong. That's terrible. Go to the hospital after you got stabbed. Don't get stabbed, and then you'll be better off. So prayer, constant, just tap into prayer, tap into prayer, tap into prayer. You have to defend your thoughts, and you have to attack. You have to defend your thoughts, and you have to be ruthless with yourself. And we all know what our boundaries are, which will trigger lust. If you have any experience in yourself and trying to control yourself, you already know what it is. And if you don't, you'll work out the details, the finer points as you go. You must be absolutely heartless and cold-blooded with yourself in stopping yourself. What may be completely okay with Bob is not at all okay with Steve, okay? And that's okay. And that's very, very important for your struggle with chastity. And why do I bring up chastity? Because the man who controls himself there can control himself in many, many ways. And the man who cannot control himself in almost anything. St. Paul says something much prettier than I do. He says, what is it? Unchastity? No, he says it's the only sin that's inside you. He says all other sins are outside of the body, but uncleanness or unchastity is inside. You know, why? Because it involves your body and your soul, right? Second kind of practical step is leadership. Look to understand, and to train your leadership. We do not need 40-year-old teenagers, guys. We have that. We have tons of them. We have tons of 40, 50, 60, 30, 20-year-old teenagers. That's useless, man. I need guys on my team that will follow me to hell and back. And if I go down, will drag me out. And so leadership is a necessary thing. Now, does that mean you'll always be every time the same form of leader? Of course not. Everybody has different gifts. It's the reading for I was looking at the gospel for, one of the readings for, the second reading for Pentecost Sunday coming up in a couple of weeks. I was already looking at, we have different gifts. But we certainly understand that we must take leadership, which means that we have to be the first to do something. And that's okay to be alone. That's what the self-sacrifice means. It's okay to be alone if you're the first to take the lead on doing something a certain way or not doing something. You're maybe not physically alone, but you're alone in a certain sense. And that's okay. That's the beginning of your sacrifice. Christ was alone. My God, why have you abandoned me? Utterly alone. But it speaks to us. Leadership, and then leadership to good things. You can lead people to heaven, you can lead people to hell. Watch how you guide. I think it's St. Leo. In the Office of Readings for the Feast of St. Leo, I think, he's a great line. If you cannot control your own body, then how do you expect to control others? He was like, you want to be in charge of other people and tell people what to do, how to live their life. Look at yourself. How many times do you not go to bed when you're supposed to go to bed? Or wake up as quickly as you should wake up? Or eat what you're supposed to eat? Or, I mean, 10 different ways I could list from today. From the rising of the sun today, I could list 10 different ways that I wasn't good in control of myself. Who am I to say I want to control other people? Like, what? First, dominate and control leadership here. Father Canta la Mesa, the preacher to the papal household, and an amazing presence in the charismatic renewal, says, you want to be a missionary? Preach to the unrepented continent of your soul. I remember hearing him say that, and it hurt. I was like, ow, bro. Little itty-bitty Italian guy smacked me across the room. Do you want to preach to the unrepentant? I was like, oh, bro. There was like 30 of us in the room. I felt like he hit me. But it's true. Lead here. Number three, prayer. I mentioned it before. Seriously, prayer. But not just prayer. Gentlemen, this is unacceptable. Rookie league is what? I'm a good person, and I pray because I feel Jesus when I pray, so I pray a lot. And then I don't feel Jesus so much, so I stop praying, so I do bad things. Then I kind of feel bad, then I go to confession, or maybe I don't, and I just feel better, and then I start feeling Jesus, and I do pray a lot. And then I feel bad, and so I stop praying. That right there, you know what that happens? I would say a lot, I don't know how many, but maybe 70 or 80% of Catholics live that way. And you know what you do? You hope you die when you're up here. Because you burn in hell if you die down here. I'm sorry. Why are you talking about hell for? That is not a healthy masculine spirituality. Okay? It's there, and it's a reality. And that's a failure. You would not accept that sort of behavior in your life in literally any other aspect of your life. At all. I show up to work when I have enough energy. I work a lot, though. But I don't come in for a couple of days. I don't feel like it. So you would not accept that in any other aspect of your life at all, but your spiritual life is very often. No. You must. This is absolute. You must have a plan of life. Plan of life is the term preferred by many of the saints, but Escriva, Saint Jose Maria Escriva, a good friend to me, and a good friend to masculine spirituality, by the way. That was his preferred term. What does that mean? That means you write down and break down. We can meet and talk about that one whole time, but you write down, you break down what your minimum prayer life is. Notice I said minimum. Don't write down 4 rosaries a day unless you're actually doing 4 rosaries a day. You're like, I barely get an Our Father and a Hail Mary in the morning and at night. Then write down Our Father, Hail Mary in the morning and at night. Well, that's not very much. It's a lot more than you were doing when you're dry. It's your floor you build on, right? If you want to pray more, you can pray more. But your plan of life doesn't go lower than the floor. You get what I'm trying to say? Because a lot of people, the most common mistake people do when they set up a plan of life is try too high. Then you feel bad. And I can always assure you there's 2 sides to the spiritual battle. The devil's always present. He was there in the garden. He was there at the Last Supper. He's there in the last book of the Bible. Don't be a chump and be like, he's not around. You're an idiot. You lost already. Good combat is to attack from a place of hiding. He's already won. So what he'll do is he'll use your plan of life to then get you to say, look, you didn't do it. Ooh, you should feel terrible. Start low and slow. Go to a spiritual director, sit down, work it out. Okay, what's spiritual direction? What's more plan of life? That's another day. Sorry. But we get into it. Look it up. You'll be fine. You need a plan of life. You need to be aware of God's power. And your prayer life is what will teach it to you. Because it'll humble you. Because your prayer life goes before your food, goes before your sleep, goes before everything. That's how your prayer life has to be. And so it teaches you hierarchy. There is a hierarchy to creation. There is an order to creation, an orientation to creation. And to reject that is a very, very dangerous modern nonsense. Well, no, I think all equal. Shut up. You ain't equal to God. You're not equal to the cop. You know people who yell at police officers when they get pulled over? Do you know why? Because they don't understand there's a hierarchy to creation. You just got caught by the person supposed to catch you. Shut up. Maybe you have a chance of getting a break or 1 ticket, not 4. Okay, awesome. How'd that work out? You jerk, you gave me a ticket. Because you're an idiot. There's a hierarchy to creation. If I punch someone else in this room, we get into a fight, somebody will break us up, we'd be in trouble socially, morally. If I got into a fight with a police officer, I'm under assault, at least, if not crippled. If I assault the governor, I'm lucky if I get away with it alive. And if I try to assault the president, I guarantee you I'm dead. See, there's a hierarchy to creation. That's okay. Learn your place. So your prayer life will help that. Right upon that one goes number 4, respect. Learn the principle of respect. It is a very beautiful and masculine virtue. Women have it too, of course they do. I'm just saying it's a very beautiful masculine virtue and it's sorely lacking in the modern world, which is why I picked that one. Respect hierarchy. There are people above you, there are people below you. That's a sign of maturity. And I'm preaching, a good preacher always preaches first to himself. My first spiritual director used to say that. Preaching to myself. I struggle with the hierarchy even in the church. I took a vow. That's what this thing means. But there's moments I'm like, I would do this better. Shut up. You're not called to do it better. You're called to do. Respect others. Respect those in authority, lawful authority over you. Respect others and their freedom. Remember, we have the power. To abuse of that is not to respect them. So you have to be more respectful. Respect traditions and customs. It's very important because that's where we come from. And there's a seed of arrogance to assume that we know better than all of people who came before us. That is a very dangerous, dangerous way of looking at things. I'm better. Gandhi? Psh, moron. Aristotle? Whatever. I told you before, I get on the internet, I troll people sometimes. This person wrote to me, I'm not kidding, wrote, oh, well, that's a merely human Aristotelian understanding of philosophy. I was like, did you just write merely human, quote, Aristotelian? Okay, you're insane. This conversation's over. They wrote back. I didn't answer. I was like, you're insane. You're either insane or you're trolling me. One of the two. Because you can't mean that because you're a human. What are you, stupid or something? What are you... You've wasted my time. You've become repugnant to me. Goodbye. Yeah, you're not going to change that person, by the way. You got to know when you got to quit, okay, gentlemen? Even if you're right and the person ain't going to listen, walk away. Dust yourself off and walk away. So, respect for others, respect for the hierarchy, respect for others, respect for traditions and customs. By the way, that also includes other people's cultures. A true gentleman never lets anyone feel awkward around them. A true gentleman makes it a point in his life never to cause others to feel awkward around him. That's class. You can't buy class. That's class. So you may encounter other people's cultures that are a little different. You know, they're a little louder, a little quieter, a little less emotive, a little more emotive. To be as classy as you can be. Now, I'm not saying to tolerate sin. And if you got that impression from me, you haven't been listening. I absolutely do not tolerate sin. Ruthless with it. But always gentle in the way you correct. Stand in the truth with love, right? But anyway, continuing on. And lastly, respect yourself. That's part of respect. I mean, last for respect. Respect yourself. We are so often kind of downtrodden culturally, downtrodden economically, downtrodden that we believe it. Don't buy that nonsense. Sometimes we struggle in our romantic relationships. I always tell guys, you're not forever alone. You're single. There's a difference. And I'm the first one to make around forever alone jokes. I mean, we used to trade them. I was getting bad. I was looking them up just to face. I was like, I'm the king of the forever alone. No, but the thing is, you have to understand, sometimes men lose themselves in their desperation for a relationship. And you become less of a man. And then when you become less, by the way, the opposite of man is animal, not woman. Not woman. No, you weren't paying attention to the first thing I said. The opposite of man is animal. We lose ourselves in our desperation to be accepted. Not just romantically, but even socially. Respect yourself. It is the mark of a true man that he will walk alone. And he's all right with that. Now, last few points, just 5 kind of thoughts. They're not really under the practical steps, but be proud of being a man. Number 1, be proud of being a man. There is nothing wrong with being proud of being a man. Okay? You can be proud of being a woman, you go, girl. You can be proud of certain things, you go. I'm proud of being a man, you sexist pig. Be proud of being a man and unapologetic for it. The culture, I would say, really split. Battle of the sexes became a thing, and then it feminized the culture. And so yesterday I was flipping channels with that person I told you I went to visit. I was mentioning earlier, I went to visit somebody and we were flipping to daytime TV. So glad I don't watch TV in the daytime. Some nut job was like, yeah, you know, I think the problem is that men need to be more like women. They need to be more in touch. And I remember thinking, I can't wait till this person has to do something hard, violent, in need to protect someone he loves. And then he'll smile and think, would I need to be more feminine? No. No. Stop. He's who he needs to be. If he needs psychological help, that's fine, but he has to be proud of who he is. He doesn't have to be someone else. A mark of our feminization of our culture is that emotions have become more important than truth. I'm offended by that. I don't care. I love when people say that. If you're offended, doesn't mean you're right. Those are almost always the first people that get offended by other things. Those are the ones that I aim for when I'm bored. I remember that person, I scroll back up and I click on them. I'm like, I got 20 minutes to kill. I was like, I'm finishing the cigar and I have some left. I'm like, nice, while I finish the cigar, I'm going to... That emotion has trumped logic. That's terrible. And I mean that on the good guys team. You ask people why abortion is wrong, why same-sex marriage is wrong. Good, well-meaning Catholics, they know something might be wrong. They can't tell you why. That's not okay. I feel like, well, I think that, you know, we each have a responsibility to society. Both of those things offend our responsibility to society. Someone was like, I bet you're religious. Actually, I'm going to rip you apart without using God. Watch. I will tie one hand behind my back and still stomp you. This is not good for society. Oh, really? Yeah, and I went through. He said, do you know what marriage is for? What? What is marriage for? 2 people to show their love. I said, 2 people can show their love without marriage. Try again. Oh, you want because Christian wants to make money. Predates Christianity. Predates every religion, marriage. Predates every state. So you can't take away anything religious, take away anything that has to do with the state. See? There is cold and beautiful but bony logic behind the truths we speak. Look them up. Learn them. They're there for the finding. And with the internet now, you can watch somebody with a video explain it to you. Real simple. Great terms. So be proud of being a man, of being chivalrous. Be proud of being a man. Last thing I'm going to say about be proud of being a man, stop apologizing for being chivalrous. There's nothing wrong with that. You open the door for a lady and she goes, I can open it myself. Say, you're a weirdo. I'm doing something nice for you. If you don't, I mean, you don't have to say that. I do. Then again, I'm a priest, so I don't know. I get away with stuff. Or I close the door. I go, oh, you're right. And I go, give me a second, step back, thanks. And I close the door. And I was like, nice. Don't apologize for being chivalrous. That's absurd. And you do, I bet, at least twice a week. I bet at least twice a week you do something. Oh, I don't want to. Point out what you're doing, and most people will stop, or at least be humble enough to admit that they're kind of a little psychotic sounding. I'm sorry, I'm trying to be appropriately kind. And they'll be like, well, I mean, just because I can't, nobody said you can't. I'm still trying to do something nice for you. Don't apologize for being chivalrous. It's really, really common that men do this now, in our culture at least. Number 2, work for the church. Your mother needs you. We bleed and we die for the community. Well, bleed and die for the church. The church needs you. She needs well-formed men who are proud of being men, but also at the service always of God, or gentlemen. Also, don't run. If you are involved in any sort of ministry, in any sort of spiritual thing, don't run from poorly done spiritual things. What do I mean by that? You're given an assignment. Can you help with this? And you get there and they're a mess. They're just teaching weirdo stuff and they're doing weirdo things and you're like, this is wrong. Don't run, because if you run, then you're not part of the problem. You're not part of the solution. You're part of the problem. When God puts you in a difficult situation, if you flinch, then you haven't learned the lesson. It's like when you throw a ball at a kid to teach him how to play baseball the real way, right? Again, the first way, here you go, underhand pitch. Then you start going, okay, you're going to play with your uncle. You got to throw, and you start throwing it and they flinch. If you flinch from the ball, you never learned how to play with the ball. If God puts you in a difficult situation because you're trying to be a good person and you get mad, you flinched. And your first question is, what if I get hit by the ball? What if I suffer for doing the right thing? Good, then you stop the ball. Right? What did they tell you that? Remember when they taught you that? I remember my brother and my father trying to teach you that. They threw the ball hard at me. I was like, ah! I was a little kid. It was 2 weeks ago. No. And I was like, ah! And they threw the ball. And I was like, but if it hits me? And my brother looked at me and goes, then you stop the ball. That's the first step to fielding the ball. I was like, wait, I don't like that response. I was expecting something different. Like it won't hurt or something. He was like, yeah, it'll hurt, but you stop the ball. But he's right. The only way you're going to learn how to play a sport, well, the same thing, the exact same thing with spiritual situations. If you have to suffer for doing the right thing, if you suffer for doing something bad, I don't feel bad for you. Life's tough. Wear a helmet. Don't get caught next time. Don't do it, But I mean, if you suffer for doing something good, if you complain, if you whine, if you whatever, if you back away from doing the right thing, then what you just did was flinched. God said, can you help me clean this? You're like, it's dirty. Can you clean it before I clean it? What was the purpose of helping God? So take it and embrace it. Pray for the church, sacrifice for the church, and be a good example. Number 3, practice being gentle but firm. It's a skill. It's more of an art than a science. Practice being gentle but firm. When you have to correct someone, practice consciously. Be gentle, but be firm, be clear. Okay, there's different ways, and you'll learn how, and you'll instinctively start learning how, or you'll learn how and then eventually become instinctual to learn with whom you go a certain level and with whom you don't. I said before, the boys was like, shut up and suck it up, we gotta go to the bed. I wouldn't do that to everybody. I do it with kids that know me and I really feel close to. Wouldn't do that to a random person. You learn that different, but you gotta practice. Because what I'm proposing to you is to embrace the power you have, the physical strength, the emotional strength, even the presence that a man can bring. Right? A woman raises her voice is not nearly as scary as when a man raises his voice. It's much more scary. So, but I'm saying use it. But I'm saying then always let it be guided by your gentleness. So practice it. Make it conscious. And the 4 and 5. Choose and create who you want to be. Many great men have sat down and made a list of what virtues they want. One way to look at it is make a list of the things that people will say about you when you're dead. Make a list of the virtues you want to have. Look at some of the men that you look up to, holy men preferably, saints even better, but also gifted in particular fields, okay? That's fine. You want to have move forward in your field, you should. Fine. Look at them. Learn about their lives. Write down virtues you see in their life and then consciously try to act and work out those virtues. Now remember, virtues don't work like an injection. Jesus doesn't just make you kinder. You pray for Jesus for kindness, as Skriva makes this great point, or patience. Jesus gives you a whole lot more opportunities to be patient. Do you know what that means? He frustrates you a lot. Because that's how you grow in virtue. You use it. You have to do it, right? Just like you learn how to tie your shoelaces or field the ball. It's by doing it. So a virtue will only grow by repeated habits, by repeated actions, excuse me. That's what a habit is. That's what a virtue is. But write down the virtues you want. In the field you've chosen to move and grow and work in, I hope, look up people in that field that you look up to. And I'm not saying you have to emulate everything about them. I might find, Pope John Paul the Great. I think he's amazing. I might find something that he did, it's not my style, I don't like it, or I don't like how he did that. Fine, I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm saying I want to imitate these virtues in him. Make that list. I really mean that. Make that list and have it as something for yourself that you know about, and you look at yourself, and then you judge yourself by that list. How did I do today? Or how did I do this week with that? I didn't do that well, then I need to work on that. How can I be that person? You're not going to drift into being the man you want to be. That's absurd. You only get there by choosing to swim against the current in a particular direction. So choose and create who you want to be. And then number 5, choose and eliminate the people around you. Book of Proverbs, chapter 27. I swear, if I ever started a men's group, I'd call it Proverbs 27 group or something. This is, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. I remember reading that, like, blown away by that fact. Proverbs 27:17. Choose the men around you consciously. They either make you more of a man or more of an animal. There's not another way to do this. The people around you will strengthen you. Jesus didn't even send, it's not good for man to be alone. That's like chapter 1. Like right there. Jesus didn't even send the apostles alone. Think about it. That's bad planning. I need to cover a lot of territory. I got 12 dudes. I'm going to send them all in pairs of 2s. That's terrible planning. But it's because he understood they needed each other. And I got 72. Okay, I'm still going to split them in half. That's terrible. You cover a lot more people if you split them up. He wasn't interested in that. He wanted to make sure nothing was lost while you went busy and conquered for the kingdom of God. He wanted to make sure nobody was lost in the way. Choose the people around you. Be conscious about it. You know, some of you have heard me say I'm a bad man. I usually say at the beginning when I give a talk. I don't mean morally evil. I'm plenty evil. All right, I'm a filthy sinner. All right, but what I mean is I think I find myself, I don't think it's wrong or extreme, but a crazy person never knows they're crazy, much more conscious about who I allow or don't allow of me. I got no problem doing that. I never have. Maybe I'm a cold fish. Maybe I've always been a cold fish. I don't know, but you have to. Someone will help you or they will hurt you. And I don't mean when you're strong. When you're strong spiritually, your bad friends are not a problem. It's when you're feeling weak that you need to lean on them that they're bad for leaning on. Okay? By the way, don't apologize for stuff. This is something, this has nothing to do really with our talk in a certain sense, but it's a parallel. For women, the thing most women often find themselves apologizing for is their feelings. Don't make women apologize for their feelings. We do it all the time. And women do it. I'm sorry, I'm crying. Let her cry. That's what they do. Fine. Maybe I want to cry. But don't, we unfortunately, because we're not so emotive, we sometimes make them feel bad for their feelings. Don't do that. That doesn't really go here. That probably went maybe under the feminine part, but I wanted to mention that. Their feelings are theirs. Now, feeling can be wrong, okay? I don't like that. Don't care. I remember at one of my parishes once I did something, a major mass schedule change, and the parish council said, we don't like that. I said, I don't care. What? I said, that's why I didn't ask you. I'm sorry. Well, it was a major feast of the parish, and I was like, we're going to do the schedule. That's it. You didn't ask us. That's fine. You didn't ask our opinion. Well, your opinion is not legislative. Your opinion is at best consultative. And I didn't want to ask your opinion because then you'd give it and you expect me to listen to it, and I wasn't because I already knew what I needed to do. So I just didn't ask. I don't like that. Still don't care. You can repeat it again, see if I care. But I needed something to get done for the parish, and it ended up being quite, actually really helpful. But I don't say that lightly, but then again, you know what? You know who has to answer to the cardinal? This guy. You know who gets a phone call from the cardinal if there's a problem? This guy. He doesn't call the parish council members. With responsibility comes rights. With rights comes responsibilities. So I was like, no, I have to answer to the cardinal for this maybe. I'm going to go ahead and make the call on this. So feelings can be wrong, but never make someone feel small for having the feeling. Be careful. We sometimes, just because we're not super emotive, we do that. So we want to be careful with that because we don't always, we don't always do that so nicely. You know what I mean? Kind of, what's the matter with you? Like, let her have the feeling. Doesn't change the situation, but at least it's there and you acknowledge it. Okay? Any questions, comments, concerns, rude remarks, political opinions?